Good morning, and we're back. This is Real American Variety, and I am Bethany. So, my last video, I had planned on filming, editing, and then releasing to YouTube, but lo and behold, I had somehow technologically clicked on something so that it was an actual live feed, much to my non knowledge. So, that being said, all of this is coming so new to me. Thank you guys so much for being here and being real with me as I fail forward in this endeavor, having absolutely no understanding of technology. I was a cosmetologist for the past 25 years, purposely choosing a career that did not involve computers because of my lack of computer, not only interest, but knowledge. That being said, thank you for being here. I've got a few topics I want to speak about today. As always, if you like my content, please give it a thumbs up, maybe share with a friend, help me build my platform. It is because of you that I continue to do this, because of your support that I keep growing my channel. So thank you for that. All right. So I wanted to really focus on kind of one specific thing, but there's a few other things kind of wrapped up in it. So I just kind of wanted to first start talking about Fox News and Tucker Carlson, which, we watched him leave a while ago. We didn't know what was going to kind of happen with that. He had this NDA and he had this contract with Fox that it seemed unable to get out of. So we were like, when are we going to hear from Tucker? And then Tucker on Twitter kind of exploded, basically garnering more views than every single network put together, as many of us kind of expected, but there was that little bit of fear for Tucker that, maybe he would take a hit. But it is appearing that that is not the case whatsoever. And I just recently was reading an article about how there's been a mass exodus. And by mass exodus, I mean 9 people, but 9 people that worked for Tucker Carlson that have all exited Fox since he exited, not because he has approached them, but because they have approached him to come and work with him. To me, just shows what an amazing human being he was, and that it wasn't really about Fox. It was really more about Tucker. So that being said, I had read this other article that I found very intriguing. It was all about Fox Corporate. Now, Fox Corporate, especially like during the COVID years, they're on the news kind of talking, they were promoting the vaccine, but they were also speaking, some of them were speaking kind of, for choice. It should be choice. It shouldn't be something that's mandated. All these things. Yet all that time, Fox is mandating that all of their employees get vaccinated, probably boosted. Not only that, but tested for COVID every single day to even be able to go on the air. So I just find that extraordinarily hypocritical that a corporation is forcing one thing down the throat. They're also big into the equity and inclusion training. It's very obvious. We all know that BlackRock is one of their big investors because they, often run tons of BlackRock commercials. Probably Vanguard BlackRock is probably where most of the investment and owns most of the people that are invested in Fox. So we kind of all know that this comes from the top, the elites that are expecting this kind of ESG, this social justice warrior take that most corporations have to take. But what I find so interesting about Fox kind of calling themselves a conservative news station is, meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're treating their employees just like every other liberal run corporation. But they're going out on the air and they're saying another thing. I guess, and it led me, and it kind of, for me, this kind of happened when Tucker left, because I was an avid Fox watcher. That wasn't the only place I got my news. I always took it with a grain of salt. However, I liked a lot of the personalities. It was kind of always on in my home. When Fox fired Tucker Carlson, their most popular person, I just was like, huh. And it caused me to kind of look into what's going on there a little bit more. And now I'm like, okay, they've all got this narrative and like probably limits in which they're allowed to go, and they can't kind of go over the edge, which I think Tucker did, which is part of the reason that he's no longer with them. He was one of the only truth tellers on there. But having what happened with him, and now knowing what Fox Corporate is having all of their employees doing, I'm like, how can we trust anything that they say? Like, they have absolutely no integrity. And I get it. You have a job and you want to keep, and you think you're going out there and you're thinking you're doing good and you're thinking you're doing the right thing. But it's just like, how do you go to sleep at night knowing that you work for a corporation that is forcing you to do and subscribe to things that are totally opposed to what your views are? But anyhow, again, that's probably one of the biggest reasons that I applaud Tucker Carlson in leaving, and most likely losing a ton of money, because I don't know, I haven't any idea what's in that contract, but I can guarantee whatever he's doing with Tucker on Twitter is most likely violating that, and that he probably took a big hit when it came to money. But at the same time, you got to look at, okay, well, he had to think of the future here. And yeah, he probably in the short term lost a bunch of money, but if he had just not said a peep for 18 months, he might have just kind of faded away. And then when he was allowed to come back, people wouldn't have maybe been interested in listening to him. So I think in the long run, he actually capitalized on this entire deal. All right. So that, pardon the monologue, that was actually kind of unplanned. What I really wanted to talk about today, because I just find this extremely interesting, is this whole Sisters of Perpetual indulgence in the Dodgers, the LA Dodgers. Because we had all heard, like, they came out, they were going to have these blasphemous LGB drag queen group that dresses up as nuns and, does some really inappropriate things. Especially if you're a Christian, or more specifically a Catholic, it's basically blasphemy, and it would not be tolerated in any other. Like, if you were to do something similar and be parodying, because they call themselves satirical, the LGB community, you would be canceled like immediately. But we are in this odd place in society where it's okay to completely blaspheme religion. And to me, that's absolutely baffling. But that is not the only thing that I wanted to talk about. I had seen a video, and of course, I think because they were going to have them, people got really, really mad. So then they said they weren't going to have them. So then the LGB community got very, very mad. And of course, I'm sure being in LA, you've got to bend a little bit more than maybe if you were in Texas. But so then they decided to have them again. Now, they decided to host them an hour prior to the game even starting. So when I saw this video at first, I was thinking, holy cow, there's literally nobody there. There was maybe 50 people in the stands at all whatsoever. And then when I heard, okay, it was an hour before, that kind of makes sense, because, not everybody is going to show up an hour before, but it was clear that they weren't showing up purposely because of what was going on. However, I thought, how just, right? They're basically doing this to an empty stadium because they had absolutely no support. And why is that? Because the people that are going to baseball games are not extreme advocates for this stuff. Like, they try to make us believe that the majority of people is for all of this. But this type of thing shows to me immediately how that's just what the media is saying. If you were to watch the news, you would think that the majority of people is pro trans, pro open borders, pro like everything, because that's the narrative that they're putting out there. And that us little small minority of people that are pushing against that we're the crazy like extremists. However, that's simply not the case. I mean, the majority of people, probably 90% of people, we agree on a lot of things. Maybe different levels of agreement. And some people might be a little bit more socially okay with certain things, whereas they might, push harder on some physical things. But for the most part, we can come to a pretty much agreement on like 85% of the things. And I'm pretty sure that even people that have no faith whatsoever don't think it's okay to be completely blasphemous, and probably wouldn't show up an hour early to support such a thing. So I just feel like it was a big lose. I'm going to try to share my screen here in the hopes that maybe if it doesn't happen immediately, I can edit this out. But if what happened the other day happens again, I may be SOL on that. So I believe I got it though. Here we are. Okay. So thousands protest Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence outside Dodger Stadium hours before the night of Pride. So that's not what I found so extremely intriguing, aside from the fact that there was actually more protesters outside than there were inside supporting this blasphemous group of political satirical figures, as they want to call themselves. But it was actually the what happened afterward that I thought was so interesting, because so many people are talking about this and they're talking about, was this God like reaching out and saying, okay, if you're gonna do this, now this is happening. Because apparently right after that, they were like smothered 15-0, the biggest loss that they'd had in I don't know how long. It was like the most just thing that could possibly happen for those of us that thought that what they did was so extremely offensive by choosing to exploit this Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, in using Catholic and Christian folks as the butt of their joke. That being said, no one is trying to say that this was the work of God by any stretch, because I like to believe that God is a loving God and he doesn't do things to us. However, I just kind of look at it like maybe it could just be that the players basically, their heads were not in the game. They were so disturbed by the fact that they were getting so much bad press based on this, that maybe they just weren't all there. And kind of all of the catalyst of everything going on caused them to have a shitty game. Or we could go, maybe a little bit of justice was served here. God was just like, you're gonna smite me, now this is happening. But I'm not definitely on that ship, because as I said, I like to believe that he's a loving God, but he is also a just God. But I just like this was from Eric Metaxas. Don't know who he is, maybe I should follow him. Coincidence? Following a deeply despicable and offensive Pride Day celebration honoring the infamously evil group that sexually mocks the crucifixion, the LA Dodgers suffered the single worst home loss in 125 years. They lost to the Giants 15-0. So just wow. Again, like how extraordinarily just that was, that happened. And I think that, let's see, so the series, it was the first time San Francisco had won in LA since 2021. First time, so they swept the Dodgers at home. First time since 2012. Thank you. So, yeah, extremely great outcome for something that seems to go against the mainstream. Of course, they would be leading us to believe that everybody would be for this. So then I just kind of wanted to segue that into something else that I found that was very, very interesting. And that is the Texas Rangers are Major League Baseball's only team who doesn't have a Pride Night. So we're all kind of talking about the LA Dodgers right now, but when it comes to the Pride celebrations have been going on, for quite some time, and nobody's really batted an eye until, I believe, the last couple of years it's kind of taken a turn. I believe it's being used politically to divide us. I think that they're, especially with the trans movement being such a polarizing topic, I think they are using that to divide us, and politically using that to divide us. And since that's happened, what I find just so terribly sad is because all of the steps forward that gay people made have been taken 10 steps back because of this severance almost in their community, since all of this gender ideology and the trans movement has kind of been in the public eye, to the extent that it seems no matter what I turn on, whether it's TV, YouTube, whatever, and most likely that's because I have all this passion for politics, so I do consume a lot of that type of thing, follow a lot of channels that have that, but it just seems that this is one of the things that is being shoved down our throat at every turn. It just seems like, and I don't want to say it's not important. I just think that there's probably some bigger things that we should probably be talking about right now that they maybe don't want us to look at or pay attention to. So this is a thing that like very easily everybody can kind of really just go at each other on, whether you're on the social justice warrior side, and maybe this isn't even something you totally understand or completely even accept, but you don't want people to think that you're a bad, unloving, non-inclusive person. So you're going to jump on that side and fight for it, regardless of what you even truly believe about it. Or you stand on the other side that said, hey, it's been this way for this many years. You expect me to just overnight be all in on something that has not been okay for my entire life on this earth? That just seems a little, this is for me also, like, I always like to point out that regardless of which side you stand on, if you stand on a firm foundation of what you believe and you have integrity in that, right or wrong, then you can withstand opposition and maybe even welcome it, because opposition, with opposition comes conversation, comes maybe understanding the other side a little bit more, maybe finding the things that we could possibly reach across the aisle and shake hands on, or maybe not, maybe realizing that that's never going to happen, but understanding and respecting the other side. You can deal with opposition. But when you are simply not even willing to deal with opposition and you just want to cancel everybody, that means you don't even have a firm foundation of your belief. You don't even, it makes me go, do you even really believe what it is that you are saying? Because if you truly did, you would welcome opposition. And the fact that you don't leads me to believe that you don't stand on a firm foundation. I digress. I went away from what we were talking about. I apologize. When I get passionate about something, that tends to happen. So the Texas Rangers, just total respect, total respect. And I had read this article. This might be a different article that I read, but it was what led me to pull this up and want to share this with y'all, about how that they just said they're catering to their fans. They're inclusive. Anyone can come and anyone can enjoy baseball, but they're going to promote baseball. They're going to talk about baseball. They're going to be baseball because that's their fan base. And that is all it should be. Like, I don't know when it became a thing that sports needed to start supporting the woke left ideology, especially when it comes to, like, and I don't say this out of disrespect for the gay community, because I have many gay friends and I don't disrespect gay people at all. I feel a little pushed on some of this newer stuff that's happening. It's definitely divided things for me, but I'm able to separate. Most people that reside in the community are not sports fans. And I can't speak generally for all of them. I'm sure there's plenty in the LGBT community that do enjoy sports, but it's not the predominancy of the butts and seats in those stadiums that are paying for these corporations to make money, for MLB to make money. I guarantee it's your basic hetero, all ethnicities, doesn't really matter, but more masculine type men that enjoy competition. So when you start seeing like the NFL, the NHL, and MLB going crazy woke and selling like pride jerseys and all these things, like, I get it. You're appeasing the people at the top of the food chain, the elite that's really pulling all the strings, that, has probably got all the investment money in there. I get it. You've got to appease these folks, but at the risk of losing your fan base altogether. Like, I don't know how many conversations that I have had with people just over the last, like, I guess 3 to 5 years, where this has become such a eye-opening experience with just, the woke mob kind of taking over, that said that they'll never, they don't even watch it. They don't watch sports anymore. They don't go to games anymore. They don't want to give their money to people that hate them. And I don't mean the teams. This, for the most part, doesn't have a ton to do with the actual players. I guarantee there's some players that don't even agree with a lot of this. But then I saw there was the one baseball player that tried to come out and talk about, I don't remember which team he was on, but he spoke against this Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence thing. And then he got, like, they tried to cancel him immediately. So then what does he do? Which to me is just like such a coward move. So I apologize if I'm seeming insensitive to him, but like, if you're going to stand for something, just stand for it. Like, if you issue an apology the next day, did you really stand for it? Like, and I get that sometimes we get heated and we may say something inappropriate. And maybe we may wish that we had chosen those words more wisely so as that maybe it didn't come out so offensive, or it mistakenly offend someone we didn't mean to, or hurt somebody we didn't mean to. But if it's something that you stand for and then you come out the next day and apologize just to appease the woke mob, like, where's the integrity in that? But again, that's because I have nothing to lose here. I'm not, getting paid any money for anything that I'm doing. So if I get canceled, I lose nothing except my own self-respect. So, and actually, I would still respect myself if I got canceled for standing up for my beliefs. So, oh, geez, gosh, I hate it when that happens. It's like, no, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to pay for a news article. So, I guess we'll be moving on. Did I have anything after that? No, I guess that was the last thing. So, the Texas Rangers, kudos to you, fellas, and whoever is running your wing of the MLB, because I think that they are doing something right, and that's caring about their fans. Because as we've seen time and time again, with whether it was Bud Light or Target or Netflix or, MLB to the gaming world, which was a perfect segue into the last thing I kind of wanted to tackle here. And that is this whole let me actually preempt this with the fact that I have no idea about the gaming world. It literally doesn't even register on my radar. I do not game. I've never played Call of Duty in my entire life. I've witnessed others playing it. I have no idea how any of it works, but I do know that people that are in that world are like in it to win it, man. Like, this is like, it's like ride or die, baby. And apparently this Nick Merck guy, who was someone who's been, leading the pack for quite some time. I don't even know what skims are. What I can kind of get out of all of this is skims is essentially like the package of like maybe what, like guns and artillery and maybe like what you wear or whatever, that you choose when you go to play the character. Please pardon my ignorance. If you all are gamers, don't judge. Okay. Don't judge. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about when it comes to the gaming. I'm talking about the politics of what happened. But he apparently, after that protest that happened, where the parents came out to protest, I believe, forcing the kids to do some sort of Pride Week or something. And there was a scuffle, and like, the protesters and then the Antifa, I think, were kicking the crap out of each other. He simply tweeted, "Leave the children alone. That's the real problem." And everybody just jumped on him. Apparently, he tweeted that a lot of his fans, because I have no idea what the gaming world is made up of, but I'm sure it's made up of all political spectrums, especially at this place that we're in now, where politics is ingrained in literally everything. But when that happened, Call of Duty saw the backlash that happened and immediately removed his skins, which infuriated a lot of people. A lot of people said, "I'll never play Call of Duty again," even to the point where he had some other gamers. I know it was Tim something or other, who was a buddy of his, that stood up. And then my husband keeps showing me there's this other guy, Doctor something or other. Again, guys, like, pardon my ignorance in the gaming community here, who just said, "No, we're not playing it anymore." This one guy was like a big YouTuber. He plays on YouTube or in probably other places as well, Twitch, all the places, the gaming platforms, and they won't play Call of Duty anymore. And not only that, this Tim guy's like, "You know what? If you're going to remove his stuff, remove mine as well. Like, I don't support what you did." And I did read a lot of people were like saying that he kind of caved and he's kind of a coward because he didn't really stand up for what his buddy said, as much as the way that the Call of Duty peeps kind of reacted to that. He didn't like how that went down. And I believe even this Nick Merck guy came out on his Twitter afterward and issued an apology, in the sense that like bro, like, I'm like super inclusive person. I love everybody, but when I'm also a new dad, and I stand behind what I said. Leave the kids alone. So I have a little bit more respect for him than I do the baseball player who came out and like completely like retracted everything he said and then catered and pandered to the LGBT community or LGBTQIA plus. I really do. I'm actually really excited because I'm going to actually have a guest on my next podcast, and he's somebody in the gay community that I've known on TikTok. Since I started, I've kind of been following him, and we've always seen a lot of things eye to eye. So he's going to be my first guest. I'm super excited about this because I just have so many questions to ask in the realm of being in the LGBT community because, clearly me, I'm a straight white Christian nationalist, according to the left. So I have so many questions on like what it's like. Does he feel like the community is being divided by all this polarization and politicization that is happening? And I really just feel like this new movement is almost an erasure, not only of women, but of gay people. It's almost like the people at the top of the food chain here. It's like they're like, okay, well, if we can use these polarizing topics to make people more homophobic, more racist, more whatever, then they will move everything back. And because I believe the same thing about the race war that's going on right now. It's like I feel like I'm Gen X here. Like I feel like we had made so many steps forward, and now all of a sudden, because they are shoving it in our face and forcing down our throat that we're more racist than we were in 2015, it's actually causing more racism. And I think that's the end goal. And I think it's the same thing with the LGBT community. I think that they are promoting this movement that they know is so polarizing to actually cause more hatred and homophobia, because people that didn't give two flying FUCKs about if Target had pride stuff up because it wasn't all about the new movement, um now they're associating the whole thing together. And it's like all these extra letters they're tacking on to the end that like it's like LGB, got it. I can understand all of that from a perspective of not having any experience in it, but I can understand, like I get that. I think we were at a place in society that was pretty darn okay with most people. Obviously, there's still going to be extremists that are not going to accept it. And I'm even a Christian, but I just always looked at it as it's not my place to judge. That's God's place to judge. I'm just told that I'm supposed to love everybody. So that being said, even the new movement, the trans movement that's coming, I love everybody. I just think if you're a grown ass adult and you want to do whatever you want to do, like that's none of my business. But leave kids out of it. They don't even know what they want for dang breakfast. And you're telling me that they can make a decision that is going to change their entire life, because you can't go back from that stuff. And they're not talking about that. So I'm super excited to have a guest and actually be able to ask somebody these questions that can answer from an entirely different perspective than me. So I'm really excited to be able to share that with you all. Again, I truly appreciate you coming along with me on this journey, and sometimes um, not knowing what I'm doing when it comes to especially technology, and just kind of failing forward with me, knowing that it's only going to get better. I promise. Maybe at some point I'll actually make money doing this and I can hire people to make my show a lot better. But until then, I'm just going to keep being me and being as real and transparent as possible. And hopefully you will all come on the journey with me. Until then, and until next time, which I'm hoping the next video that I upload will be the one with my guest. I will see you when I see you. Until then, you stay free, stay real, stay blessed, and yeah, stay awesome. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share with a friend if you like my content. Take care.